Hi, everybody. It's Tana from Bridge to Health, New Mexico and the Espanola Fitness Studio. Hope you all are having a great Saturday. Go ahead and join me live here on Zoom if you got a notice that the meeting has started. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's great, but these health education sessions would be really, really good with live interaction. So you can ask questions about the topic and I can help walk you through your personal issues, because health behavior change is very, very personal. And that's what we do. So we want to know what your personal issues are so we can help you through it. Today, we're going to continue the short discussion that we had a few weeks ago about hormones and your weight. This is a really interesting topic. It might be new to you. If it's not new to you and you have something to add, please add it in the comments. If you have questions, add it in the comments. All right, we're going to get started here. I'm going to share my screen, but I'm still here. So we'll come back to me after the screen share is done. So give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen so I can share some slides with you. Okay, almost there. All right. Hormones. First of all, I didn't put a sentence in this presentation that I should have, and that is, what is a hormone? A hormone is a chemical that's created in your body. It's sent through tissue fluid like blood in humans, or if you were a tree, it'd be sent through sap. If you were a plant, it'd be sent through whatever plants have. But for humans, it's produced in your body by an organ. It's sent through the blood to send a message to something else in your body to do something. So the hormones themselves don't do the final action, but they send messages to other parts of your body to do something. So that's what a hormone is. Now, when it comes to your weight, hormones work together to increase or decrease appetite and fat storage. They're really important when it comes to losing weight. If your hormonal system doesn't work properly, you may find yourself struggling with weight issues on an ongoing basis. Now, there are lots of different systems in your body that are using hormones. If you have diabetes, you're very aware of the hormone insulin. You're probably more aware of your hormones if you have diabetes than people who don't have diabetes, so that's awesome. But you know, if they're out of whack, if they're not working well, you struggle with your weight. The good news is that diet and lifestyle change have a very powerful effect on hormones. The first hormone we're going to talk about today is the satiety hormone. Satiety means feelings of satisfaction or fullness. That feeling that you get after a meal that you don't need to eat anymore is called satiety. Leptin. Leptin is the satiety hormone. Some people remember that leptin is the one that lets you push away from the table. So those two L words, leptin and let's push away from the table. Key roles of leptin plays a key role in the regulation of energy balance. Remember that calories are energy. So leptin helps your body regulate its energy balance, its weight, its metabolism, that is the rate that it burns energy just to function, and your endocrine function. You diabetics out there know all about your endocrine system, I'm sure. Leptin was only discovered in 1994. Now, the older and older I get, the more I feel like 1994 was yesterday. But when you look at it, it has been a few years. But really, it's a pretty new discovery. Quick story, when it was discovered, one of the big pharmaceutical companies, I think Merck, maybe we'll say Merck, forgive me if it's wrong, thought, okay, leptin is the key to obesity. And so we're going to make a leptin pill that we can then give people and they will stop being overweight. And so they tried it and it failed. And that's because the hormonal system is so complicated that you can't just give people more leptin and have their body shed pounds. So the pharmaceutical company lost a lot of money and a lot of hopes and dreams on leptin. Leptin is generated and secreted by fat cells. This is an important thing to remember as we get deeper into this discussion today. Leptin is created and released by fat cells. Okay? It travels through the bloodstream to receptors in the hypothalamus in the brain and relays information about the body's energy supply. Remember when I said that hormones don't do the final action, but they travel through the blood to other parts of the body to give them messages. You can think maybe of hormones as text messages, that the text message is not actually getting done what you need to get done, but it's sending a message to somebody else about what you need to get done. Okay? Leptins are, hormones are the communicators. And leptin communicates with the brain about the energy supply in the body. Either we need more energy or we have enough energy. And again, what is energy? Calories. Calories are energy. When you have enough energy stored in the form of fat to support your basic physiological activity, that's your heart beating, your blood pumping, your taking a breath in, taking a breath out. Your brain takes a ton of energy every day to function. Those of you who have ever had head trauma know that in your recovery, you're exhausted, right? Because your brain is taking all the energy from your body to heal. So when you have enough energy to support your basic physiological activity, your exercise, and your more energy expensive processes like puberty and pregnancy. Those of you who have gone through puberty and or pregnancy know that you're fatigued a lot. And that's because the body is working so hard. It's using energy for a whole lot of changes. During those times, your leptin levels are elevated. Okay? You have enough fat. You have enough energy to support what your body needs it for. On the flip side, when you are dieting, and by dieting, we define that as caloric restriction. So you're lowering your calories by a significant amount each day. Your leptin levels drop. Now remember, leptin sends a message to your brain about the energy stores in your body. So if your leptin stores drop, your brain says, I'm hungry, we must eat, which is why you get hungry when you're dieting through caloric restriction. Oops. That's okay, we'll do double there. Leptin pathways are complicated and not fully understood. That goes back to the pharmaceutical company that thought they could just give people a pill and solve the problem. Didn't work, it's very complicated. The hormone is believed to stimulate the vagus nerve that connects the brain and abdomen. I don't know if any of you saw the breathing activity that we did yesterday on this same channel. There's actually pranayama breathing techniques that stimulate the vagus nerve. So I didn't talk about that yesterday. I should have. I'll talk about it next time that I do an activity like that. But if you go to your doctor, your chiropractor, your alternative provider, there are activities you can do to stimulate the vagus nerve. It connects the brain to the abdomen. Pretty important. Leptin plays a role in the brain's reward systems. This is very interesting. When your leptin levels are low, food tastes better. So you're likely to eat more and restore energy homeostasis. Homeostasis is equality, is balance. Nature loves balance. So our bodies, being the natural things that they are, always try to get back to a state of balance. If our energy level is low, our brain says, I'm going to make food taste better. So they're more likely to eat more. It's part of survival. When your leptin hormone levels are high, your appetite goes lower, it's suppressed, and your metabolism kicks into gear. It starts to rev, to burn off that extra energy. So you might be thinking, if leptin is so great, why am I overweight? It seems like the hormone would keep you from getting overweight. But obese individuals, and when I say obese, you guys, I know that's a word that makes people cringe. It's the word that's used in the medical community to denote a BMI over 30. So if you don't know what your BMI is, you can contact me. You can contact probably anybody in this group. You can actually search it online. That would be easier. Search for a BMI calculator. It stands for body mass index. And you can type in your height and your weight, and it'll give you BMI. If your BMI is over 30, it will define you as obese. I want to challenge you to not be offended by that word. It's just a word to define BMI over 30. People who are obese often have one of two leptin-related dysfunctions. Their leptin system is not working well. Either they have no leptin. This is very, very rare. Most of you who are watching this probably do have some leptin. It's very uncommon to be born with no leptin, but there are people who are born with no leptin. Those are the people whose weight gets completely out of control, like 500, 600 pounds. Why? Because they never feel full. They have no sense of being satisfied by food. And so their brain is always sending them a message, eat more to survive. It's very powerful. But the more common issue with your leptin, what happened here? The more common, sorry, I'm getting back. Now I'm going to have to go all the way through. That's okay. Hold on, I'm going to catch up here. The more common, what happened again? Oh, technology. What happened? Hold on, guys. There I am. Hold on. All right, I'm going to talk while I do this. The more common issue with leptin is leptin resistance. And that is where you're producing a normal amount of leptin, but your brain is not getting the message correctly. Most of us who are overweight or obese have leptin resistance. So, what is leptin resistance? Okay, people who are obese have a lot of body fat in their fat cells. When we get overweight, the first few times that we do that in our adult life, we are just expanding the fat cells, the same number of fat cells that we had when we went through puberty. So those, let's say you have, just as an example, 100 fat cells. When you get overweight, those 100 fat cells expand and get bigger. Okay? So when you're overweight, you have a lot of body fat in those cells. Because fat cells produce leptin, remember, we learned that leptin is produced and released by fat cells. So because fat cells produce leptin in proportion to their size, people who are obese also have very high levels of leptin. Now, think for a minute. If your leptin levels are high, you're supposed to not want to eat. Your brain is supposed to be getting the message, I'm not hungry, right? So when we're overweight, we should naturally limit our food intake. However, when we're leptin resistant, we don't. We continue to eat too much. And leptin resistance is believed to be one of the main biological contributors to obesity. Biological meaning inside your physical body. When your brain doesn't receive the leptin signal, it incorrectly thinks that your body is starving, even though your body has more than enough energy stored. So think about that. Your brain is getting a message that's wrong for your body. No wonder we're overweight. Your brain wants to eat more to regain body fat, but it doesn't know that you have plenty of body fat. Oh, geez, why does it keep doing that? There we go. Okay. Your brain thinks that you must eat in order to prevent starvation. It reduces energy expenditure. That means it slows down your metabolism to conserve energy because it thinks that's what you have to do to survive. If you have a lot of body fat, especially in your belly area, then you are almost certainly leptin resistant. Okay, but here's the real question that you want to know. Can leptin resistance be reversed? What are we going to do about it? Number one, reducing diet-induced inflammation may help reverse leptin resistance. Diet-induced inflammation is inflammation in your body created by the food you eat. There are lots of different theories about inflammation in food. But overall, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that today. Maybe we'll do another session on it. But overall, if you focus on a healthy lifestyle, you are going to reduce the inflammation in your body that can reduce your leptin resistance. Here's how you do it. Avoid processed foods. Highly processed foods may compromise the integrity of your gut, of your intestinal microbiome, and drive higher rates of inflammation in your body. So eat food that is as close to its original state as possible. All right? That means fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy meats that haven't been processed too much, straight from the cow. Eat soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is fiber that dissolves in water. Soluble fiber helps improve the bacteria in your gut and may protect against obesity. Examples of soluble fiber are psyllium. Almost all, I'm going to say all vegetables have soluble fiber in them as well as insoluble fiber. You can supplement soluble fiber. You can take Metamucil or Benefiber, any of those products. It's fine to supplement. Beans are a great source of soluble fiber. Anything in the bean family. So pintos, black beans, lentils, garbanzos, anything in the bean family. Here's a surprise. You need to exercise. Physical activity may help to reverse leptin resistance. You need to sleep. Sleep is so important. We're going to do a whole session on sleep in the future. I'm really excited about talking about sleep. Poor sleep is implicated in problems with leptin. Next, you need to lower your triglycerides. Having high triglycerides can prevent the transport of leptin from your blood to your brain. The best way to lower triglycerides is to reduce your carbohydrate intake. So when we tell you to eat more protein and fewer carbohydrates, This is one of the reasons. There we go. Eat protein. Protein is magic when it comes to weight loss or management of your weight. And part of the reason it works is improvement in leptin sensitivity. The summary around leptin is that there's no simple way to eliminate its resistance, but you can make long-term lifestyle changes that may improve your quality of life. Again, notice there's no pill to take. You just have to do what you know you should be doing for a healthy lifestyle. Okay, the next hormone we're going to talk about is ghrelin. Ghrelin is the opposite of leptin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. Ghrelin signals your brain to eat. When ghrelin levels, when you're hungry, ghrelin levels increase during a diet and intensify hunger, making it hard to lose weight. So when you're dieting or reducing your calories significantly, leptin is decreased and ghrelin is increased. Ghrelin travels through your bloodstream to your brain, just like so many hormones, where it tells your brain to become hungry and seek out food. Its main function is to increase appetite. That's what it does. It makes you consume more food, take in more calories, and store those calories more as fat. Ghrelin affects your sleep and wake cycle, your reward-seeking behavior, your taste sensation, and your carbohydrate metabolism. When your ghrelin is increased, it's going to be harder for you to sleep. You're going to crave eating food that tastes good. And when you eat carbohydrates, your body is going to store them more likely as fat than to burn them as energy. Ghrelin is produced in your stomach, and it's secreted when your stomach is empty. That makes sense, right? When your stomach is empty, ghrelin is secreted by your stomach to make your brain want to eat. It enters the bloodstream and affects the hypothalamus, just like leptin did, which governs your hormones and appetite. The higher your levels of ghrelin, the hungrier you get. You can remember the name of ghrelin by thinking of it as a gremlin in your gut. Gremlins eat a lot. Remember that movie from the 80s, maybe the 90s? I don't remember, I think the 80s. The lower your levels of ghrelin, the more full you feel and the easier it is to eat fewer calories. Ghrelin played a huge role in our survival in the past because it helped us maintain a healthy level of body fat. If we were still hunters and gatherers, it would be a good thing to be highly motivated to go out and hunt and gather to find our food, and ghrelin helped us do that. All right, what causes ghrelin to rise? Again, if we're trying to lose weight, we want our ghrelin levels to not rise. We want them to stay down. So what makes them rise? Usually they rise before a meal when our stomach is empty. Then they decrease shortly after our stomach is full. This is very interesting. Obese people may be more sensitive to the effects of ghrelin, which means when they feel hungry, they experience that as a more intense feeling than people who are not obese. But some research actually shows that their ghrelin levels are lower than they are in lean people. Okay, so think about that a minute. When you're obese, your ghrelin levels are low, but your brain is getting a stronger message to eat. Again, it's miscommunication. Other research suggests that obese people may have an overly active ghrelin receptor in the hypothalamus, in that part in the brain that's getting the message, which leads to increased calorie intake. The longer you diet and the more body fat and muscle mass that you lose, the higher your levels will rise. Guys, I want you to notice something here. Muscle mass. When you are trying to lose weight, you must be strengthening your muscles. Not only because of ghrelin, because of so many reasons that maybe we'll talk about in another session. This is all related. But when you lose weight, you do lose mass from your muscles. So you have to do strength training work to keep that mass high. One of the reasons is so your ghrelin stays low and you simply don't feel as hungry. All right, here are the answers for you. How to lower ghrelin and reduce hunger. Ghrelin, just like leptin, cannot be directly controlled with drugs, diets, or supplements. So if you bought something for $19.99 at midnight the other night that said it would lower ghrelin, return it before you open the bottle. However, there are things that you can do to help maintain healthy levels of ghrelin. Number one, avoid weight extremes. Both obesity and anorexia alter ghrelin levels. So don't yo-yo diet. Keep your body weight steady. This won't be a surprise. Prioritize sleep. Poor sleep increases your ghrelin and has been linked to increased hunger and weight gain. I know this is a big one for me. If I don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I just want to eat all day, the rest of the day. Here you go. You need to increase your muscle mass. Higher amounts of fat-free muscle mass are associated with lower levels of ghrelin. Again, eat more protein. High protein diet increases your feelings of fullness and reduces hunger. One of the mechanisms behind this is a reduction in ghrelin levels. You need to maintain a stable weight. We already talked about that. Interestingly, you can cycle your calories. Little caveat in everything I say here, if you have a condition or are on certain medications to manage a condition that make it necessary for you to keep your calories and your carbohydrate and your protein levels steady from day to day and throughout the day, don't cycle your calories without the guidance of a professional. If you don't have a condition or are taking medication that makes that matter, you can do periods of higher calorie intake and periods of lower calorie intake. That might be from one day to the next. It might be a few days in between. You can work with a professional around that if you want to try it. Okay. We're going to talk about set point theory because it has to do with hormones. Set point theory states that our bodies have a preset weight baseline that's hardwired into our DNA. It's in our DNA what our body is supposed to weigh. According to this theory, our weight and how much it changes from that set point might be limited. Some of us have higher weight set points than others, and our bodies fight to stay within these ranges. If there's anybody out there who struggles to gain weight, if you think you're too thin and you're trying to gain weight, this is part of the reason it can be so difficult to gain weight. Body weight is affected by inherited traits, your environment, and by hormonal, there you go, psychological and genetic elements. Weight also depends on energy burned compared to energy taken in. Now, what's interesting is that most people think it's only that last part. Most people think take in fewer calories than you spend during the day and you'll lose weight. Those of you who have experience trying to lose weight or gain weight know that often it's not that simple. It's because of your DNA, the environment, your hormones, and psychology. Set point theory relies on the concept of a genetic preset weight range that's controlled by biological signals. Some of those signals are leptin and ghrelin levels to keep you at a steady state. Back to your hypothalamus. It gets signals from fat cells, right? Hormones like leptin. Remember, leptin is produced in fat cells. Leptin regulates hunger, and insulin, which we're going to talk about in a sec, are triggered at certain times. Your metabolism also constantly adjusts up or down based on a variety of signals. That's why, part of the reason why, if you are not getting enough calories every day, you're not going to be losing weight, because your body is going to slow that metabolism into survival mode and keep you from losing weight. Set point theory suggests that your weight may go up or down temporarily, but will ultimately return to its normal set range. The signaling system of hormones helps maintain your weight. All right, here we go. Can a set point weight change, right? You might feel depressed after that last slide. Like, what's the point? It's all set by destiny, right? But you can change it. Here's a good question. If your set point is set, why do you gain weight? And that's because of the leptin resistance that we just talked about, and also insulin resistance that we're going to talk about in a sec. The communication gets messed up. In most of us, in the food environment that we're currently living in, our communication between our hormones and our brain is not working properly, and we have to work to get it back. I just want to point out here that there's a second opposing theory to set point theory, and that is called settling point theory. And I love this. Basically, what this is saying is that you are settling into a comfort in your lifestyle, in your eating, in your age. And so the way that you navigate your food choices, combined with our biological traits and our energy balance, affects our weight shifts over time. So you see this in people who have been married a long time, where they say, oh, he or she loves me anyway. They don't care if I have a little panza, right? It's okay if I eat what I'm eating. It's called the settling point theory. I like that. Okay, here you go. In order to reset our set point to a lower level, set point theory proponents recommend going slowly with weight loss goals. Don't lose more than 1% of your body weight average per week. All right, take a calculator, type in your body weight, multiply it by 1%, and that's the amount of weight that you should lose each week average. Some weeks will be more, some will be less if you're on a weight loss journey. No faster than that though, because you have to let your hormones equalize. And then after you lose 10% of your body weight, you need to maintain before you lose more weight. So let me say that again. If you have a goal to lose, let's say 30% of your current body weight, again, figure that out on a calculator. I want you to lose 1% a week average. And once you lose 10% of your body weight, I want you to maintain that weight for 2 to 6 months. I know you thought you were going to go down and just keep going down. But if you do that, your set point is going to kick back in and make you yo-yo back up. Your brain is going to get tons of signals to eat. And that's why people regain weight after losing it. So you need to maintain for 2 to 6 months after losing 10% of your body weight. All right, let's talk about insulin. You diabetics, you could probably teach this to all of us yourself. All right, insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas. It's secreted in small amounts throughout the day and in larger amounts after meals. Insulin allows your cells to take in blood sugar for energy or storage, depending on what is needed at that time. So insulin, remember, it's a hormone. So it's sending a message to another part of your body to do something. Insulin is the key that opens up your cells to absorb energy, to take in energy. Insulin is also the main fat storage hormone in the body. It tells fat cells to store fat and prevents stored fat from being broken down. Okay? So the higher your insulin in your body, the more you're going to store fat, and the harder it's going to be to get the fat that you have to break down. When cells are insulin resistant, which I think we talk about later, if not, I will talk about it without a slide. Insulin resistance is super common. Most of us probably are insulin resistant. Both blood sugar and insulin levels go up significantly. Chronically elevated insulin levels can lead to many health problems, including obesity and metabolic syndrome. I'm going to go back here because I don't think I explained insulin resistance too much, and I need to do that. So insulin resistance is when there's a miscommunication with the insulin key and the cell it's trying to open. So you can think of it like the locks have been changed, where insulin is, okay, let's take a step back. You ate something that had carbohydrates in it, that had sugar. That sugar is broken down into glucose that gets into your blood, which is what it's supposed to do. The cell needs that sugar for energy. So insulin comes along with the key and is supposed to open the cell so that the glucose can get into the cell. When you're insulin resistant, the key is broken and the insulin is not able to open the cell. So number one, the glucose doesn't get into the cell. And number two, the glucose stays hanging out in your bloodstream, which makes your blood sugar high, which makes your pancreas produce more insulin, and you can see how it's a cycle. All right, here we go. Overeating, especially pure sugar, refined carbohydrates, and fast food drives insulin resistance and increases insulin levels in your blood. Here we go. Tips to normalize insulin levels and improve insulin sensitivity. Avoid or minimize sugar. High amounts of fructose. So as you guys probably know, anything that ends in an ose is a sugar. So when you look at your milk bottle and it says lactose, that's a sugar. So fructose, lactose, sucrose, glucose are all sugars. They all promote insulin resistance and raise insulin levels. Need to reduce carbohydrates. Low carbohydrate diet can cause an immediate drop in insulin levels. Again, you people who have diabetes know this really, really well. Again, fill up on protein. Protein actually raises insulin in the very short term. However, over the long term, it leads to a reduction in your resistance to insulin by helping you lose belly fat. Next, include plenty of healthy fats, omega-3 fats that are found in fatty fish, in flaxseed, in all of the nuts, almonds, and cashews. Eat your omega-3s. They can lower fasting insulin levels. You need to exercise regularly. Overweight females in one study who walked briskly or jogged had an improvement in insulin sensitivity after only 14 weeks in one study. This is interesting. Get enough magnesium. Now, I do want to tell you that I am not a licensed provider to prescribe what you should eat. So rarely, never will I tell you what to put in your mouth. But I do want to suggest that you consider getting enough magnesium. If you're not logging your food, that's a whole other topic, but there are so many great food logs out there, electronic food logs that will also give you the micronutrients that are in the foods you're eating. Make sure you're getting enough magnesium. Magnesium helps with hydration levels, among a lot of other things, and it might be something that you want to try to supplement if your medical team says it's okay. Insulin resistant people are often low in magnesium, and magnesium supplements can help improve insulin sensitivity. So ask your providers about it. Drinking green tea may lower blood sugar and insulin levels. All right, we're moving on, leaving insulin to cortisol, our next very exciting hormone. All right, cortisol. Cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands. It's known as a stress hormone because it's released when your body senses stress. Cortisol makes your body go into survival mode and induces the production of fat cells, which will cause a declining metabolism to store food for later use. Every time I give a presentation in a class about cortisol, I ask people to think about Viking TV shows. Now, if you don't happen to have teenage boys in the house like I do, you might not be familiar with Viking TV shows, but they are all about stress. It's war and dying and death and blood and chopping people's heads off with swords. And it's very, very stressful. So I want you to think, if you were a Viking, your levels of cortisol would be very high in those battles, because the last thing your body needs to be thinking of when it's in a Viking battle is food. It needs to be conserving energy, knowing that you're not going to be able to eat until after the battle is over and you have washed the blood off your hands. Cortisol is vital to our survival. If we didn't have cortisol, we would never feel stressed. We would never be motivated to survive. So I do want to put out there, you guys, that stress is healthy. You know, if we didn't have stress, we would lie in bed all day. It's just a matter of managing how much stress we have and how we manage the unhealthy stress along with the healthy stress. Chronically elevated levels of cortisol can lead to overeating and weight gain. If you were a Viking in a battle once a week, I mean, from the TV show, it seems like every day, but I would imagine probably once a week, your body would have more cortisol only during that time, and the rest of the time it would relax. In our current environment, we are having elevated levels of cortisol almost all the time for most of us. Driving raises cortisol. Watching screens often raises cortisol. Even exercising raises cortisol. We're going to talk about that in a little. So I'm not telling you not to exercise, but you need to exercise in the right way to lower your cortisol levels, or else you're going to overeat and gain weight. Females who carry more weight around the belly, around the middle, respond to stress with a greater increase in cortisol. So you can see how that is a cycle, a nasty cycle to get into. When you have more belly fat, you respond to stress with more cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone most responsible for weight gain in men. All right, men, Vikings, warriors, you guys, cortisol is what makes you gain weight. Females, we're going to talk about you in a sec. A strict diet and hard exercise can also raise cortisol, so we don't recommend it. Now, I don't know if there's a specific slide. I don't think there is. So I'm going to talk about cortisol and exercise now. That last sentence, hard exercise can raise cortisol. Yes, it does. Cortisol spikes during hard exercise. But the beautiful thing is that after your hard workout, if you go back into a low stress environment, if you go back into a nice home with enough food and enough money and nice people around, your cortisol levels after hard exercise will then drop. So there's a recovery from the spike. They will drop and it's super healthy. The problem is when you do hard exercise and you return to a stressful environment, guess what happens? Your cortisol never recovers from the spike that it experienced during the hard exercise. So your cortisol continues to stay high. And as you know from what you just learned, that is not a good thing. Okay? So exercise hard only if you're going back into a non-stressful environment. Also, I really encourage you to embed in your exercise routine exercise that lowers cortisol, the breathing and relaxation techniques that we did yesterday, a yoga practice, a Tai Chi practice, a stretching and flexibility practice, a walk by the river. Those all are exercise that lower cortisol. So put those activities on the days in between your cortisol raising exercise. It's all good. Okay, how to reduce your cortisol levels. Eat a balanced diet. All this stuff gets so boring, you guys. It all comes back to the same things. Eat a real food diet. Michael Pollan, the author of In Defense of Food, highly recommend his books. His advice for eating to live a long time is eat food, real food. Eat food, not too much, mostly vegetables. All right, so eat a real food-based diet. Don't eat stuff that's been processed so much that it's not even food. Don't cut calories to extremely low levels. Meditate. Practicing meditation can significantly reduce cortisol production. You might call it meditation, you might call it prayer, you might call it relaxation. Whatever you call it, do it. Listen to music. So researchers report that when soothing music is played during medical procedures, cortisol does not rise as much. Sleep more, not a surprise. One study found that when pilots didn't sleep for 15 hours over the course of a week, when they lost 15 hours of sleep over the course of a week, their cortisol levels increased by 50 to 80%. That's crazy, right? Get enough sleep. And there you go, include non-stressful exercise in your routine. Okay, this will be our last hormone that we talk about today. I think maybe we can get to one more. Estrogen. Here you go, ladies. This one's for you. Estrogen is the most important female sex hormone. It's crucial to being a female. It's also found in men, but it affects the weight of females more than it does in men. Remember how I said cortisol was the hormone to blame for weight gain in men? In females, it's estrogen. Estrogen is mainly produced by the ovaries, and it's involved in regulating the female reproductive system. Both very high and very low levels of estrogen can lead to weight gain. To maintain fertility during the reproductive years of the female, estrogen starts promoting fat storage at puberty, right? That's why you got those hips at puberty. And it may stimulate fat gain in the first half of pregnancy. It's healthy. You need it at those times of life. Obese females tend to have higher estrogen levels than normal weight females, and some researchers believe this is due to environmental influences. During menopause, when estrogen drops, because less is produced in the ovaries, the site for fat storage shifts from the hips and thighs to fat around the abdomen. So that's why before menopause, females are more likely to store their fat around their hips and thighs because that's good for childbirth. After menopause, estrogen levels drop and the weight shifts up to the belly. Some people call it a menopot, right? This promotes insulin resistance and increases your risk for disease. Belly fat is associated with a higher risk of metabolic syndrome, of disease related to being overweight. So you want your fat away from your belly, but after you go through menopause, estrogen drops, your fat comes up to the belly. So how to manage estrogen? Number one, eat plenty of fiber. We should do a whole session on fiber. We talked about supplementing with soluble fiber before. That's great. Guys, fiber, vegetables and legumes, beans, eat your beans, eat your broccoli, eat your cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables are the hard vegetables that take a long time to spoil in your refrigerator. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Those are cruciferous vegetables. Eat at least a cup of them a day. Oh, there we go. Next sentence, cruciferous vegetables have a beneficial effect on estrogen, partly because of the fiber. Flax seeds, we talked about omega-3s. Flax seeds, super healthy. I do want to say before we talk about flax seeds that you have to crush or grind flax seeds in order to get any benefit from them. If you put them in a smoothie or on a salad or in a drink whole, they will pass right through your body without affecting anything. So it's the phytoestrogens in flax seeds. Some people think that's going to increase your estrogen, but it actually appears to have a beneficial effect on estrogen in most females. Exercise. Physical activity can help to normalize estrogen levels in both premenopausal and postmenopausal females. We have time. Oh, do you know what, you guys? One last thing I want to talk about estrogen before we move on to neuropeptide Y. Obesity or being overweight is a risk factor for many cancers, including breast cancer. And that is because estrogen, so high levels of estrogen put you at higher risk for many types of cancer, including breast cancer. Estrogen is produced by fat cells. Let me say that again. Estrogen is produced by fat cells. So if you have more fat cells, you have more estrogen. Higher estrogen is a risk for cancer. Okay, lower those estrogen levels, ladies. Okay, neuropeptide Y is our last hormone we're going to talk about today. It's also called NPY. It's a hormone produced by cells in the brain and the nervous system. It stimulates appetite, particularly for carbohydrates, and is highest during periods of fasting or food deprivation. Kind of similar to leptin, huh? But it's produced in the brain, not by fat cells. Levels of neuropeptide Y are elevated during times of stress, which can lead to overeating and abdominal fat gain. Interesting, right? So if you're under stress all the time, your neuropeptide Y levels are going to be high, which can lead you to overeat and to store those calories that you're eating in the abdomen, which is not good. All right. How do you lower NPY? My gosh, this is getting so boring, you guys. Eat protein. Eat protein. Eating too little protein has been shown to increase the release of NPY, which leads to hunger, increased food intake, and weight gain. Don't fast for too long. Animal studies have demonstrated that very long fasts, such as over 24 hours, can dramatically increase NPY levels. I wish we had time to talk about intermittent fasting and fasting in general, but again, maybe we'll have to do a whole session on that later. Really affects the hormones a lot. In general, personally, I would say fasting between 12 and 16 hours a day is really super healthy. Anything longer than that, you can start to get a little bit in trouble. Depends on your body. But okay, soluble fiber, again, soluble fiber. You can take it as a supplement or get it from your beans and vegetables to feed the friendly bacteria in the gut, may reduce NPY levels. All right, guys, in conclusion, your homework from this session is to listen to how your body reacts to hunger, sugar, stress, and think about the hormones at play. The next time you're hungry, I want you to say, hello, ghrelin. Where's the leptin? The next time you're stressed, I want you to say, hello, neuropeptide Y, or NPY, if you don't want to remember that long name. You want to talk to your brain and say, why are you producing NPY when I'm just driving down the road, making me want to reach my bag into my hand into that bag of nuts I have in the glove compartment. So I just want you to become familiar with the hormones in your body and how they're affecting your weight. And this week, I want you to talk with them. All right, let me take this off of screen share now. All right, we're back. I hope you're still with me. It was an hour-long presentation on hormones. I find it very interesting and exciting, but I'm kind of a nerd like that. I hope you guys found it interesting and exciting. Have a great day. Comment with your questions, and I will see you next week. Bye.